The C5's dead once again. This car's been great, but after some weird electrical issues and a pretty bad misfire, it was sorted for a bit. But then it started doing this. This, as in nothing at all. There's power, but it's not even attempting to crank. So after running through all the potential reasons as to why it's not doing anything.
Nothing, come on.
Like checking the battery, again, the fuses and the relays. We finally found the culprit was...
It's the starter.
Which, in a Corvette, especially with headers, is not a very easy task.
Oh God, that's where the starter is?
So this video we're gonna hopefully get this thing running once again. But first we're gonna go on a little trip to buy something that should make this job a lot less sucky. A lift.
One problem. How am I gonna get this lift onto my trailer? I knew just what I was gonna do.
I've got an idea.
So I went over to my brother's job site and took his Bobcat. And the next morning, loaded up and headed to the great state of Maine. Boy, I love leaf springs. But just one more problem was looming over me the whole ride. The lift weighs 920 pounds, and my brother's Bobcat, that's only rated to lift around 800 pounds. Plus, we've got the forks on there, which are another almost 300 pounds. Once we arrived, I checked it over, I liked it, and we made a deal. So I unloaded the Bobcat, tried to lift the lift, and it did it. Luckily, I weigh as much as a small city, so the machine didn't nose over. We built some ramps, then all I had to do was drive the Bobcat forward and place the lift down onto the trailer. Once I strapped it all down, we hit the road. Excited I finally had my own lift. It may not be a big two-post, but I couldn't be happier. Once home, I narrowly avoided death by metal crutch.
This is on video.
As Ty unloaded the lift.
I don't know about that weight, 900 pounds. No?
It's actually pretty cool. This thing's portable.
It's new home. Lovely.
And it goes up decently high. Around 48 inches. But one problem. When it's laid out flat all the way down, it's about 5 inches tall, which sounds giant to me. And my Vet sits about -8 inches off the ground. So Ty and I started devising a plan to build some ramps. Well, I watched him do this.
You're so good with numbers.
Then the next morning, I take some final measurements and head up to Home Depot, where I whack multiple people in the head as I walk around with my 16-foot boards. Once home, I get straight to work, building the ramps. It's quite a simple design, really. One 2x12x16 board for each side, with two 10-foot 2x4s under that to save on lumber costs. Those, being longer than the 2x12s, acts as our first bit of ramp up. I used some spare wood I had lying around to make the step-ups a little more gradual. They look good, but are they gonna work? So as Dad piloted the dead Vet, Ty and I lined it up.
Brake, cut, turn to, yep.
Then, we went for it.
Ready, go. Push.
I made it out like I was pushing the Cadillac up the ramps, not a fiberglass featherweight. Forgot how light this thing is.
You can stop right there.
All right, look underneath right now, see how much exhaust. I mean, obviously you cleared it, you didn't hit it.
Yeah, I just realized we're supposed to put the car in backwards. I can't get this started.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, we couldn't turn it around anyways with just us, but I just realized that the pistons are on this side. I don't think it's gonna...
I think you'll still get it.
I don't
You're gonna try it at least.
Yeah.
It ended up being all right, and perfect, actually. Even Dad was impressed.
Wow. That is so cool.
Look at this.
And that one's right there. We gotta get a video of it going up.
Then, It was finally time to test it out. Will it lift the Vette or lift a bunch of $100 bills from my wallet for absolutely nothing?
Ready?
Whoa! Like it's a four-wheel drive. Hold up.
It looks pretty even.
The Vette was off the ground, but we wanted to take it slow and double check everything before going any higher.
I think
Lift points were right, but we've got a different problem.
And I think I'm blue, whatever this is plugged into.
I flipped the breaker and now could continue up to the first lock on the lift.
On the side is gonna be easy to get to.
It's all out in the open. Well, behind the header. Oh, yeah.
Guys, look at this. It's on a lift. My own lift. I think this just feels so good because for years now, 4, 5, 6 years that I've been working on cars, I've always been just on the ground, especially the Jeeps, just, you know, just on jack stands, and now it's no more messing with jacks on each side. Look at this. I've got it up on the first lock right now, so it'll go up much, much higher than that, but dang, this is so cool. Tire rotations, brake jobs, I'll be able to stand or sit on a stool and just have everything right here. What a game changer. Oh, I'm so happy. But the thing I'm most happy about is the starter. Let me get some light on down here. The starter is all out in the open. Let me climb under here. Look at that. The front here is all open. Amazing. Which should make this job, even though it's still gonna suck really, really badly, it'll make it a little bit more bearable. I'm sorry guys, I'm thrilled. This is incredible. And it's not that special to most people, but to me it is. So later in the day, I figured I'd better sort out getting a starter. And this job is pretty difficult, or so I've heard, and I'd love to not do it again anytime soon. So Steve thought best to see how much an OEM one was from the dealer.
Patrick,
How's it going? I was looking for a price on a starter motor for an 01 Corvette.
01?
Yeah.
$639.92.
All right, thank you very much. All right, bye. He must have misheard starter motor for engine. Holy hell. Maybe he's just in a bad mood and felt like taking it out on me. Luckily, there's another dealer close by. Let's try another one.
Press 1 for Chevrolet, or 2 for Buick GMC. For Chevy sales, press 1. For Chevy service, press 2. For Quirk parts and accessories, press 3. For the body shop,
You are being transferred. Thank you for calling Quirk Parts in Manchester, New Hampshire. Extension, please dial it now. If you're calling about an internet purchase through QuirkParts.com, eBay contact seller feature on the platform. Phone salespeople are unable to be connected with the next available salesperson. You are being transferred to...
How's it going? I was looking for a starter motor, a price on a starter motor for a 2001 Corvette.
it's $639.92, and there's a $45 core.
Okay, $639.92 you said?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Good God, maybe I'll get one from like AutoZone and build a whole garage with the money I save. After reporting my findings to Steve, he too choked when he heard that number. So we decided one from Rock Auto would do. And 2 days later, it arrived. All right, the starter came in like 3 days early, which it was perfect timing, actually, because I was able to get the lift and the ramps and everything all set up and built. Wow, that's a lot of packaging. And here's the starter that I went with. Last night, too, when Steve came over to double check that I had all the pucks in the correct place and everything, after he checked everything out, I was able to put the lift all the way up to max height. And look at, it fits the Vette perfectly. A little
Actually, it's a little close with the door when you have the door open here. But if you have the door shut, plenty of real estate. Not sure if I'll be fitting any Jeeps in here or the Chargers, that's for sure. The Caddy might also be just too long in general. But take a look at this. The area that we need to do, as I showed you guys, is all out in the open. So instead of moving around jack stands with jacks and rolling around in the ground, I'm still on the ground, but I can just sit here and work. This is luxury to me, guys. But it's time to begin pulling this starter, which means pulling out the header on the passenger side and removing what else we're going to run into. This is going to be a little bit of a project, but let's get to it.
Starting this job with positive morale, as opposed to the great anger and frustration of getting the vet up the old way, will make this job a whole lot more pleasurable. And it begins by unplugging the harness for the O2 sensor on the passenger side header, and then finding the correct wrench to unthread the O2 sensor entirely and get it out of the way. Next, we can loosen the exhaust clamp and drop the vet down to the first lock on the lift so we can open the hood, remove the fuel rail cover, loosen the header bolts, and remove the spark plug wires and dipstick tube to give us a bit more room.
All right, plug wires are out. Header's loosened. I can move it around a little bit and stuff. I might have to loosen them a little bit more, but let me get my light on here. So if you look down there, there's the starter. So, not exactly in a easy place to reach. This lift makes things like 1,000 times better. I don't know how I didn't have one of these years ago.
With our morale still at an all-time high, we kissed the lift, sent it back up to the highest lock, so we can climb underneath, remove the bolts on the exhaust clamp from the header to the X-pipe, and loosen the clamp on the X-pipe to the rear pipe. We need more room.
All right, so we're under the car, and it looks as though I am actually going to have to disconnect that header completely. I don't think I'll have to remove it, but I think I have to pull all the bolts, not just loosen them all the way so the header can come out this way. I think they've got to all come out because there's just not enough room to get that starter out with that header there. It's gotta come over more, so down with the lift.
With our morale only minorly bruised, we got the car to a lower altitude, so we can go back into the engine bay to fully remove the header bolts and slide the header over more to give us yet more room. Then back up in the air she goes, so we can loosen the exhaust clamp at the very back of the car, because I think this has to come out in order to wiggle the exhaust around to give me more room to get to the starter. Then I do my best 2-year-old Jake impression and crawl back up front to remove the mid-pipe from the X-pipe, which now makes it look as though we might actually be able to touch the starter.
All right, I don't know, I've got a little more room now, but it still doesn't seem like I've got enough room. I still can't get to the nuts that hold on the wires, and the starter might be able to come out this way, actually.
But I'm still not sure. I'm confused. But there's a bright side.
Hey, this is still not that easy. I think we gotta go back down with the car. Well, at least I have a lift. Makes it easy.
So baby Jakey climbs out from under the car, lowers the lift back down, and begins the tedious task of removing the cables to the starter. I don't have what I would call the girthiest forearms, but it's still not the easiest thing in the world to remove the nuts off the studs on the starter and pull the cables off. But eventually, they unthread and the cables pull off, along with all of the hair on my forearms. Then, I found something that shocked me. Literally.
Don't forget, as well, to disconnect the negative terminal on your battery. I get shocked.
After combing my hairs back down, I removed the negative battery cable and continue on getting the last remaining cables off the starter. And then, it was time for it to come out.
All right, car's back up in the air. We've got all of the wiring for the starter. Jeez, this is not fun. All the wiring is off. Now all we have to do is remove the two mounting bolts. One way up there, one down here, and hopefully I can get the starter out from the bottom here. I think I should be able to, but who knows?
So I got to work, finding the right size socket to remove the two bolts that mount the starter to the block. And once they're both out, then came the issue of navigating the starter out of its cubby, which was not that easy to do.
And there she is. What a pain. We'll open up the new starter here to make sure it's the same thing. Looks right to me. And it looks the same as the oil-infused turd here. Pretty much identical. This thing really did get coated in oil. I didn't think that'd be, well, I don't know if that's the reason it died, but the Vette does have 128,000 miles on it now, so it's not exactly a spring chicken.
Now it's time to get our non-oil infused starter back into the Vette. And after struggling to find a place to stick my light, we got to work. But after seeing how the old starter came out, it's decently easy to get the new starter situated on the block and to begin threading in the two bolts. And after giving my arms a second to fill back up with blood, while looking like an idiot, I can now tighten the final bolt. Then back up top we go to start putting the cables back on the new starter. And then, when I go back underneath the car, something unexpected happens.
Alright, well, I didn't know this was going to come out, but when I started messing with the starter wire cables, which I should have just pulled this out in the first place, I didn't know it was going to just fall out like that. I've been working around this thing for hours now, and it hasn't come out. I was wiggling around these wires so much that the header actually finally came out. I was originally going to pull it out, but it seemed like it was getting caught somewhere up there, so I just kind of was working around it, and I was able to. But then all of a sudden, as I was wiggling around one of the wires, the header just started to fall out, which makes it really easy now to figure out all the getting the wires connected back to the starter and tightening that stuff down. It does make it quite a bit easier.
I wish the header would have fallen out earlier. But now the starter's bolted up and the wiring's all attached, which means I can torque down the bolts. And clean up the metal gasket for the header. It's not damaged, and it's not even that old, so I'm going to reuse it. After Ty helps me feed the header back up into position, I can put in some hardware. Loosely. Because I still have to reassemble the rest of the exhaust, which, I learned, I probably should have done before I put the header back into place. But eventually, I get it all lined up enough to finally tighten down the header bolts. Then we can put back on the spark plug wires, and finally, line back up the rest of the exhaust and tighten back up the clamps.
I know those clamps aren't even. That one was up like that one was, but for some reason now I can't get it to budge the other way. So I'm just gonna leave it like that for now. It's not hanging down too low because the one in the back already hangs lower than that one, but I'll adjust that later. Now that I have the lift, it'll be nice and easy. I just wanna get this thing buttoned up and make sure it starts, because I still technically have no idea if all of this work was for nothing or not, but we're almost ready.
Then I try to find the hole the dipstick goes in. Story of my life. Before finally finding it and tightening back down the bracket that holds it. And then, it's finally time to find out if this was even our problem.
All right, the new starter is bolted in. It's wired up, I think. Exhaust is all put back together. Headers are back on, tightened down. Batteries reconnected. Dipstick's back in. Is there any other freaking thing that we had to remove?
to just replace this starter? I don't think so. I think that covers all the bases. But now the big question was the last, I think it's probably been like 7 or 8 hours now. Did we actually fix it? I think it's time to find out. I have high hopes. I think it's gonna work. I think so. Let's see. Pull key, wait 10 seconds, okay? Let's try it again. Okay, let's give it a whirl. Yes! Yes! Yes!
We did all the diagnostics to tell us the starter was bad, but for some reason, I'm still surprised, but thrilled to have the Vette running again.
Victory is ours.
The starter did it. What a pain in the arse that was, though. That was not a fun job to do. But I will tell you, having this lift made things, God, 10, 20 times easier. I sincerely don't think that I would have been finished today if I didn't have the lift. What a game changer. This is amazing. Now that the Corvette's fixed, it's time to give it a quick bath, because it's disgusting, before we take it on a drive and see how it does. But not before first buttoning up the passenger side footwell we tore all up the last Vette video while it's still on the lift. With the Vette on the ground, I could, for the first time in a long time, turn it on instead of push it where I want it. I blew out the interior and all the leaves and crud in the engine bay, since it's spent so much time recently with the hood open, then vacuumed it all out before giving it a quick bath. But we had one last stop, of course, before we could enjoy. Look at that. All done, all finished, beautiful looking, gorgeous as always, and finally it turns on once again. I'm so happy that the starter actually was the problem, because it was quite a bit of work, but the final product, seeing this thing out all shiny, starting nice and easy, and every time that it should, it makes it all worth it. So I'll include links for the starter and anything else I used in the video down in the description below. That starter is available on Amazon, so you guys can get that. If you have Amazon Prime, it'll be there in like a day or 2 days. So a helpful thing if your Vette dies and you need a replacement. But thank you guys very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Happy motoring.